The video begins in a quiet hospital hallway. The camera focuses on an elderly black man, Mr. Johnson, slowly making his way to the waiting area with a cane in hand. He looks tired and weak, clearly in need of care. As he sits down on a chair, a nurse named Karen storms toward him with a stern expression. She points at him and shouts, "You can't sit here. You're making this place look bad." Her tone is harsh, and her words sting. Mr. Johnson tries to explain, but Karen doesn't listen. In frustration, she kicks his cane, causing him to stumble and nearly fall. Other patients in the waiting area look shocked, but remain silent, afraid to intervene. Mr. Johnson lowers his head, apologizes softly, and leaves the hospital with tears in his eyes. The scene ends with Nurse Karen standing there, oblivious to the storm her actions are about to unleash. Mr. Johnson wasn't always the frail man seen in the hospital. Years ago, he was a beloved teacher in his community. He taught generations of children, always encouraging them to dream big and work hard. Many of his students grew up to become doctors, nurses, and successful professionals. Mr. Johnson's life was filled with purpose, but it wasn't without struggles. After retiring, he faced financial problems. His small savings were used up in medical expenses, and he was left with little to support himself. He lost his wife years ago, the love of his life and his greatest supporter. Alone and battling health issues, he often found himself overlooked by the world he had once given so much to. Despite this, he remained kind and hopeful, believing in the goodness of people. On the day of the incident, he had gone to the hospital to seek help for a chronic illness. Little did he know that his humble past and connection to the hospital would soon come to light, changing everything. Nurse Karen was known for being efficient at her job, but she had a habit of judging people based on their appearance. She believed that the hospital should only serve decent people, who in her mind looked respectable. Patients who seemed poor or unkempt often became targets of her rude behavior. She would speak to them harshly, give them less attention, and make them feel unwelcome. Her colleagues noticed this and tried to warn her about treating everyone with respect, but Karen ignored them. She thought she was maintaining the hospital's standards by keeping out people she considered unworthy. Karen felt superior because of her position and assumed that no one would question her actions. This attitude only grew stronger over time, making her blind to the pain and humiliation she caused. Little did she know her behavior would soon come back to haunt her in ways she could never imagine. The incident didn't end quietly. A few patients and visitors in the hospital waiting area had recorded the moment when Nurse Karen kicked Mr. Johnson's cane and yelled at him. Shocked by what they had seen, they shared the videos on social media, describing the incident as cruel and unacceptable. Within hours, the videos started to spread, gaining attention from people in the community and beyond. Comments poured in, with many expressing outrage and sadness over how Mr. Johnson was treated. Some people recognized him from his days as a teacher and shared their own stories of how he had helped them. The hospital management quickly became aware of the growing backlash. Instead of addressing the issue properly, they released a vague apology, saying they would look into it. This only made the public angrier, as it seemed like the hospital was trying to cover up the problem. The story became a local news headline, sparking protests outside the hospital and calls for justice for Mr. Johnson. The once quiet hospital was now at the center of a storm, and Nurse Karen's actions were at the heart of it all. As the story gained more attention, a local journalist decided to dig deeper into the hospital's history. During their investigation, they uncovered something shocking. Decades ago, the hospital had been struggling to open due to a lack of funding. It was Mr. Johnson's late wife who had led a fundraising effort to save it. She and Mr. Johnson had donated most of their savings to help build the hospital, believing it would serve the community equally, regardless of race or status. The journalist found old photos and documents proving their contributions, including a plaque once displayed in the hospital lobby that honored their generosity. Over time, the plaque had been removed, and their story had been forgotten. When this revelation was published, it sent shockwaves through the community. People were outraged that the man who had played such a crucial role in the hospital's history was now treated so poorly. The news brought more attention to Mr. Johnson's kindness and sacrifice, leaving many to question how such injustice could happen in a place he helped create. The public outrage over the incident reached a boiling point. People demanded accountability, not just from the hospital, but specifically from Nurse Karen. Social media was flooded with calls for her to be fired. Her past behavior toward other patients also started coming to light, as former patients shared their experiences of being treated unfairly by her. Under pressure, the hospital management finally took action. Nurse Karen was suspended, while an investigation was launched. This news only added to her humiliation. The media covered the story extensively, and her name became a symbol of prejudice and cruelty. Karen's life began to unravel as she faced backlash, not only from the public, but also from her colleagues and friends. She lost the respect of her peers and found herself isolated. For the first time, she started to reflect on her actions and their consequences. The once confident nurse was now left to face the harsh reality of her choices, which had cost her both her career and her reputation. As the truth about Mr. Johnson's role in the hospital's creation spread, the community rallied behind him. People who had been touched by his kindness and generosity over the years began reaching out to offer support. They organized fundraisers to help with his medical bills, and local businesses even offered him free services. The hospital, realizing its mistake, decided to honor him in a way that would show their respect and appreciation. They held a special ceremony, renaming a wing of the hospital after him and his late wife, in recognition of their selfless contributions. The event was emotional, with many people in the community speaking about how much Mr. Johnson had influenced their lives. Despite all the attention and praise, Mr. Johnson remained humble. At the ceremony, he delivered a moving speech, telling the crowd that his actions had always been driven by love for his community and the belief that everyone deserved kindness and respect. His redemption wasn't about recognition. It was about seeing the change his story had inspired in others. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that the community had finally come together to honor the values he had fought for his entire life. Nurse Karen, feeling the weight of her actions, decided to take a step she never thought she would. She reached out to Mr. Johnson, asking to meet him and apologize face to face. The meeting was awkward at first, as Karen struggled to find the right words. She admitted that she had been wrong, that her prejudice had blinded her, and that she deeply regretted how she treated him. Mr. Johnson listened quietly, his expression serious but understanding. After a long pause, he told her that forgiveness was the only way forward, and that everyone deserved a second chance to change. Karen, moved by his words, thanked him for his grace and promised to make amends in her actions moving forward. The hospital also took steps to ensure this kind of discrimination would never happen again, implementing mandatory sensitivity and diversity training for all staff. While Karen's reputation couldn't be fully repaired, she began to work harder to earn back the trust of her colleagues and patients. The video ends with Mr. Johnson smiling as he walks through the hospital once again, seeing the positive changes in the community he had always fought for. The story closes with a message about the power of forgiveness and the importance of treating everyone with respect, no matter their background. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more related videos, please subscribe our channel and don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thanks for watching.